If I were going to give you one piece of advice that says you will change your brand in the next week, is body language. How do you enter a room? Whenever the next room you go into, are you the person that just squirrels your way to a seat and has a seat and plays on your computer until the meeting starts? Or are you the person that comes in with good posture, looks around the room, puts your stuff on the table, and then does a circle around the room, having conversations? That will change how people perceive you. In every single conference you're in, meeting you're in at work, every room you're going to a Starbucks this week. When you enter that door, how do your nonverbals? Increase the distance from your ear to your shoulder, right? Increase that as competence. I would look at every door differently. That would be my number one advice. Enter those rooms differently.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are and wherever you're watching from. My name is Matt Pierce, host of the Visual Lounge, and here we are with Dr. Dustin York. Thank you for joining me. Welcome to the Visual Lounge.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. I'm excited.
I'm
the
excited.
Energy's high.
Yeah, it's been so good. So let's start off just because most of my listeners are probably like, who?
Okay.
So who are you, and like why are we talking today?
Absolutely. So Dr. Dustin York, I started in branding for the 2008 Obama campaign, Nike, Pepsi corporate branding, and then about 12 years ago became a professor. So I'm now a full-time professor. I fell in love with it. I'm a big nerd of education at scale. How can we help people communicate better, whether that be corporate brands or individual brands? And now I still teach full-time in St. Louis, as well as do workshops and training sessions and corporate workshops, conference workshops. I'm a big nerd. Basically, I say I'm super caffeinated and I keep moving. It doesn't end. This is literally never ends. So that's me.
I love it because our show is all about using visuals, and obviously a part of brand is visuals. But before we get into that, what's a tip that you would give the audience about using images or video in their work?
Yeah. I think what I'm a big fan of as far as brand goes is two things which sound like they compete with one another. And one is consistency. Find something that it speaks to your brand. Think about, even with videos, images, what does that say about your brand? Consistent with that. But what counteracts that is try a bunch, I don't know if you can cuss or not, stuff. Try a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, right.
Which I would think of it almost like an 80-20 model, right? In the sense of, I'm going to just put out 80% that speaks to my brand specifically, that's worked for me 80% because that is who I am, but like play with 20%. Try some new things out. If I haven't tried drone videos or some interesting angle, I'm really interested in the meta glasses and get like POV shots, like test it, right? Maybe it isn't exactly the brand. See if it connects with your stakeholders, see if it connects in some way and play with it a little bit.
Well, I love that because I know, so my role is really in marketing, but I do a lot with instructional design, training, learning. That's probably our biggest portion of our audience. But like in marketing, we've actually been playing with like, well, what if we put out these fun, trending sound videos that really aren't super useful, but they have a point, like the kind of general point and tying into that. So it's trying that and then getting people's attention to then say like, hey, here's the useful stuff that's going to get you moving along.
And here's the thing, right? Because I've worked with clients like Sharpie before where they had a bunch of content that didn't hit. They were selling constantly, right? It was, here's what we're doing, here's what we're pushing, right? In most industries, but it wasn't connecting with anyone. So then we had just fun stuff. I say, hey, we need to do fun things so that people like that. It's not selling Sharpie or whatever. People like that, engage with it, comment on it so that when you do sell, it shows up in the algorithm. Because if they're not engaging with anything, then you're going to get lost in the algorithm. So yeah, you got to balance that out of just, hey, when the executive comes like, hey, that content isn't pushing the sales. I get it. Here is the kind of the jab, the setup to the sell.
Yeah.
Right? I love that kind of strategy.
Yeah, I love that. So you talked about a lot of different things because you're a keynote here at the USDLA conference. One of the things I want to ask you about, because I think, so internally a lot of people have this, like, I've got to match the brand of my company, obviously, right? There's that balance. They're also trying to balance their individual personality with brand. You know, you had a couple exercises. I'll have you describe the one where, and I know you just talked previously about this, but like describe the characters, you know, aligning your value to your characters. What was that first? And then I got a follow-up question.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a big fan of being as applicable as possible, right? I hate this idea, and I've seen speakers and trainers like get you real excited, but then you walk away and it's like, I had fun, but I don't actually know what I'm going to do with any of that afterwards. So I think of it this way. Think of what I call as like role models for your personal brand. That could be the leader of your organization, a leader of a different organization that has nothing to do with your industry whatsoever. I'm a fan of like Disney CEO. I've just read his book. Or it could be fixture characters. It could be comedians. It could be your aunt. It can be anyone, right? But people who exemplify the characteristics you want to be known for.
Perfect.
So pick 2 or 3 characteristics. Who crushes it? Like, I want to be like that person. Everyone thinks they're super inclusive. I want to be known. And then for 3 to 6 months, you emulate that. Basically, you think, what would they say? How would they enter the room? How would they show up in this meeting? And I do that. I do that until about 3 to 6 months, it Frankensteins into your own way. But that gives you a tactical, like tangible thing to do. Words to say. Oh, they always sit up straight. They lean forward in meetings. Watch the YouTube. I'm going to start doing that. Right? It gives you sort of a blueprint without being an official, right, directions.
Absolutely. So I want to ask you about that because I actually want to take a step earlier than that, because really to get to that point, you have to have identified the characteristics, right? That I want to be, I want to be like you. I think yours was high energy, energetic, and kind of like, and then you put Kevin Hart with that.
Yep.
Or, you had the knowledgeable and kind of research backed, and that's Brene Brown.
Yep. But what advice do you give to people about getting to that quadrant, right? Like you pick 4, and
Yes.
You could have 2, you could have obviously whatever. But I feel like from a person who's sitting inside an organization who's maybe not CEO, maybe they're not even a director, they're just trying to figure out like, hey, I want to be seen, I want to be visible in this organization. What steps do they go through to really identify those things that are going to be meaningful for them? Yeah, I think that's a super good question. I think, and not to be ageist, I think it kind of depends on where you are career-wise. If you are kind of that middle area, you have direct reports, then I would lean and say, what are the things you're passionate about? What are like, you go to conferences, you show up in those spaces, you help with your community, so you're really in tune, you really know what your passions are. But here's the truth, right? Like when you're 25, you're not too sure, right? Yep. I wasn't sure either, right? When you're 21, this is your first year out of college. And this is what I always tell those folks, right? Because I'm a professor, I work with these, and they're like, I don't know exactly what my passion is. What are you good at? People are going to compliment you on those things. Guess what? You're going to get passionate about being complimented, right? So what are the things that kind of seems a little natural for you? Do you speak well in front of a group? People have complimented you on that, like physically. I would focus on there. Are people complimenting you on your one-on-one skills, on your ability to show up professionally? I would invest in where are the areas I'm being complimented on. And it doesn't have to be like an award. Someone came up to you, did a really good job, by the way, in that meeting we just left. Oh, what was the last time you've been told that in the last 6 months? And I would just try to hyper-focus right there, right? Because that's what you're going to get passionate about, is if people start complimenting you on those skills. Think about it that way. Yep. Yeah. So, okay, well, let's now look at like from a visual perspective, because you in your keynote, you showed several like brands, and obviously they're very iconic kind of visuals. Yep. Like Levi's got the red kind of crown symbol, right? Nike obviously is a well-known one. As an individual, I think it's probably very challenging. Like we don't have a brand team that's going to go out and help you create a visual brand. So let's take, for instance, someone wants to start a YouTube channel. They're maybe an instructional type person, and they're going to be teaching about whatever topic. What advice would you give them about starting to nail down their own visual brand kind of guide or style to help them to be successful in that? I love that. So I would think about two things. One is what's going to separate you, but also do the research in what's going on right now. Like, for example, the big time YouTuber is like Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast has a whole group of individuals that help, but literally look at his thumbnail images. Yep. What is he doing on his stuff? If he's spending millions of dollars to A/B test thumbnail images, I don't need to do that, right? Can I follow those people who are spending all the money, take what's working for them? If I just scroll all his thumbnails, I get a sense of what I should probably be doing, convert that to my brain, but it's not going to look the same, right? I'm not going to have a Lamborghini on fire behind me, right? But it's an image of me with a surprise face, and I'm branding an HVAC company. And there's some HVAC appliances behind me. But I'm trying to, one, see what's working out there. I just steal all the money that Mr. Beast has spent, or whoever, right? Big time, but not in your industry, right? They have nothing to do with Mr. Beast, nothing to do with these people. What's working well? And then say, okay, I always think of it like if you ever go to an amusement park, Six Flags or something, they do the cartoon characters. You know what I'm talking about? They make you into a cartoon, the caricatures. If someone was going to make a caricature of you, they're going to choose one or two things to over-exemplify, right? Whether it be your glasses, hair, your dress. I would, instead of just hoping, it'll be interesting, you should be able to know what they're going to over-exemplify. What are they going to over-exaggerate?
Right.
You should know, right? For me, it's black t-shirt. Like if you see a ginger with a black t-shirt, that is who I am. Whether that be something you wear, your hair, your hat, jewelry. I think it's balancing those two things. What are you going to say, this is my staple, this is what I'm going to focus on, steal what's working for the big dogs. That's how I'm going to push it out. Balance those.
I love that. And speaking of Mr. Beast, so you probably know this, but because I followed a lot of the YouTube creators and social media, you look at how he's tested his thumbnails, right? Is open smile, close smile. That's one of the tests, right? And it's crazy.
Yep.
But you're right. I love that. Follow the people that are doing it, who are really investing in it, and see what the trend is leading to, because obviously they know at 100 million, 200 million now, 300 million followers, he knows.
What I would do, not saying this is like the Bible behind it, but what I would do is, if Mr. Beast, I would take Mr. Beast's homepage URL, put that into ChatGPT, say research all the thumbnails on this profile. Here's a picture of me, of your brand, my black t-shirt and HVAC. Give me 10 examples, visual examples of what thumbnails could look like. I'm not going to copy and paste those, but it gives me that brainstorming of, there's 10, 7 of them are garbage. 3 of them are actually pretty good. 1 of them's awesome, right? Let AI help you brainstorm these kind of things. It's really interesting.
So obviously there's the physical appearance, right? Brand. You talk about the fact you're a ginger, you can't do much about that, right? Black shirt.
Yep.
From a color, like how much are you thinking about like colors and layouts? And I mean, obviously thumbnails, that's one thing, but like just in general, like when you're putting up your slides together, and when you're putting any materials you're putting out, you got to start a TikTok channel, right? Like how much of that do you think is playing into the things that you're thinking about when you work with a brand or an individual?
100%. So there's an entire psychology about colors that we can go super down and nerdy about that
another day.
But yeah, I would lean toward your industry and do a quick search, watch some content about the psychology of colors. Depending on your industry, there's certain colors. Like for example, on all my stuff, on my slides, a very simple white background with a very unique blue color. I know, because I work with a lot of companies. Blue is the most common color for any business whatsoever. There's loyalty in the American culture about blue. But again, I'm trying to be the fun guy, right, to teach you. So it's not a dark blue. It's not this navy blue. It's kind of a fun, vibrant blue. So even within the slides, I think about what you're talking about with those colors. If I'm in finance, right, green and purple are within that, luxury kind of space. I'm thinking about those kind of things, and then be consistent. Because when I do see those thumbnails, I had a really good time watching that video from so-and-so 8 days ago. I want to see it again. One I'm watching right now, I don't know when this is coming out. I'm watching Ryan Trahan's videos where he's going to 50 states in 50 days, right? Okay. And because I'm a nerd, I'm watching his thumbnails and how they're kind of changing over time. And I'm seeing some of the same colors, the same effects, but now like he's changed a little thing because he's seen higher click-through rates. He's putting the state in each thumbnail because that's now increasing. Those kind of changes are really interesting.
So it's one of my takeaways from this is that as you think about your personal brand or your business brand, that don't get stuck on whatever your first love.
Yeah.
Keep evolving and changing. Yeah. So and you can tell me where this is off limits. I'm curious because you said you worked with the Obama campaign, right? And I think that was a lot of nonverbal communication stuff.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about that just real quick if we can. Because I think one of the things obviously the world with AI is changing, AI avatars becoming more of a thing, but there's still this personality, right? Yes. Like you're the person, you're the brand. What advice would you give about this kind of like when you're interacting with a camera? And, I think about all the people making videos, they're like, oh, do I be on camera? I hate being on camera. But what would you say to help them to feel more confident, to feel like they're going to show up well?
Yeah. So I'm the diffusion of innovation. I don't know if you're familiar with this idea of diffusion of innovation. Things are like, especially with technology, it goes up super high, then it crashes all the way to the ground and then comes up in plateaus. I believe that we will get into a point where humans are going to just, AI will be used as agents. But as far as this like human connection, AI is going to grow. But at a certain point, it's going to crash in the sense of, man, I just want to hear two people talk. Like that's, I think our podcasts are
Real
doing
people,
really
right?
well. Real people talk. You can use, I don't know if you play with like Google
The like Notebook LM.
Notebook that makes podcasts. Like
Yep.
it's cool. It's a party trick. I don't want to listen to that. I want to listen to That's why I think podcasts are doing so well right now. Is human connection. We are not wired as human beings to engage with machines, right? Whether that be AI written content, etc. It can do a certain point, but a certain branding level, the human nature is going to come through. I'm going to need that. Which, for people listening, if you get a following, it's only going to go up and to the right, because that's what brands are wanting more, is that authentic nature of human beings, right? I can very easily have ChatGPT make a podcast based off Scott Galloway and the podcast that I listen to. And will it be the zingers? Sure, but it doesn't feel the same. Yeah. And that's going to come through, right? So when I'm looking at AI, I've used it as a resource, 100%. I think it's a great research-based tool. But that human nature, how can I sprinkle in more of this? In this talk, we talk about sprinkles, right? That human stuff. You know a lot about visuals, media. You will blow me away as far as visual. I also want to hear from you. What are the weird stuff you're like? What's a weird hobby you're into? Are you into D&D? Are you?
Oh yes, I was. Yeah, I'm absolutely into D&D. So
I want to hear that. I want to, even if this is a podcast about visuals, media. Tell me about last night when you had a raid. Right?
Well, no, that's probably more online gaming, but like
okay.
a campaign, we're in a campaign or
that. I want to listen to that. Is that necessarily going to help me with my visuals? No, but it attracts me to you. It increases the brand of you for me. I want to hear next week because it's fun.
Well, what you're missing is that normally when when I do podcasts, I'm usually in my home office. I've got a dice tower.
Okay.
And we actually roll a die to get 3 questions.
See?
But, when we're traveling, I don't bring all the stuff. So
I love it, right? That is super cool.
Okay, so the AI stuff obviously going to take place. Give me just 3 quick tips, better on-camera brand, kind of personal appearance. What would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll get into your area, like the technical stuff. You're a pro. The lighting, I think I've learned so much about lighting. Like
it makes a huge difference, right?
The lighting that and you know more about this, but like the down lighting and the back lighting, you can see what the pro YouTubers that I've even learned from. Oh my goodness, it makes a huge difference, right? Audio, but the nonverbal stuff, right? Nonverbal stuff. I'll give you a couple things. First, always see your hands. Yeah, you should always be able to see your hands.
I've been very conscious about this. Yes. I was thinking, my hands are back here. I need to rest them up here.
Never do. And if you're listening, you can't see this, but some people like put their hands on their
I've been trying to keep them on the table. It's been awkward.
Trust. Again, this is just evolution of human beings, right? Trust goes down if I can't see your hands, even if it's video. If it's a Zoom, if it's a YouTube video, I have to be able to see those hands. You asked for 3 things. Another one would be vocal variation. Right, so you've noticed a couple times in this session, I'm a kind of excited person. Let me tell you about this too, though. Yeah. Right, get that. It's like that vocal variation. What I work with some like executives of companies sometimes, and the most embarrassing thing, and they always tell me, you better not tell anyone I do this, is I bring an iPad and I show them a Winnie the Pooh book, right? And before they go on TV, they read it as if they're reading it to a nephew or niece of theirs, right, or grandkid and whatnot. And Eeyore sounds different than Tigger. And that vocal variation. So having that some people think I'm just excited all the time. That's awesome. No, because then nothing's exciting.
Right.
Have that variation. That's really, really big. I'll give you one more. The back of your chair, you've done a great job this whole time. The back of your chair is lava. You ever play the lava game as a kid?
Yeah.
You jump from pillows and whatnot. The back of your chair is lava. So here's what happens. Some people will sit like this, right? Sit up straight, right? And do anything kind of this. Then you get uncomfortable and you lean backwards just slightly. This doesn't feel unnatural. This feels normal. I'm doing so. Anytime someone is slightly leaning away from the other person or a camera, I distrust them more, because naturally what the body does when I'm lying or hiding something, your body naturally leans away because I'm afraid you're going to hurt me, right? That's what naturally, evolution, right? But this is just comfortable. So if I just say the back is lava, the back of my chair is lava, I may stay straight and I'll slightly lean forward over time. like this, engaging with
I
you.
love that advice, particularly because as someone who's made a lot of videos and I've done a lot of interview videos, chairs are awful.
Yeah.
Because people, they want to assume the position in the chair that they're comfortable with, and it's like, that looks terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Lava. It's lava back there.
It looks bad. So, well, those are great pieces of advice. So let's start wrapping up. Before we go into get connected with you and things like that, let me ask you this question. You obviously work with a lot of brands, so you probably have this in your head. But what's one image? If you had to pick any image in the world, what's one image you would pick of yourself, or not of you, but an image you'd pick to represent yourself? Like,
oh, an image of myself.
It doesn't have to be of you. It could be of anything. What's an image that you would pick that you think this represents me?
That is such a good question. An image that would represent me, I think would be, a TEDx, like a TED Talk logo. Here's why. I did a TED Talk before, and it was the most energy I've ever put toward a talk ever, and it was like 12 minutes. I try so hard to not only get applicable information out there, but like this keynote, I spent hours trying to perfect the cadence and when we're going to do it, how can I keep your attention, then teach you something, then come back. I may lose you soon, so I need to get the amount of time I put into that. I think you can see with TED Talks. Not that everything I do is a TED Talk, but the amount of time and energy and resources that go, I think that might be my image.
I think that's a great image. Yeah. So if people want to learn more from you, they want to connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so all my stuff is drdustinyork.com is my website. There's classes on there. There's nothing for sale. It's free LinkedIn learning classes. There's YouTube stuff. I'm trying to get as much education out there as possible. Also LinkedIn, Dr. Dustin York, connect with me, I do corporate workshops a lot and keynotes, so I do that quite regularly. I love to bring some energy across the world as well. So both LinkedIn and drdustinyork.com are fantastic.
Fantastic. So we'll make sure everyone goes out and clicks that follow button on LinkedIn. Now, as I did warn you, so I feel okay about this, but Dustin, what would be your final take for our show today?
If I were going to give you one piece of advice that says you will change your brand in the next week, is body language. How do you enter a room? Whenever the next room you go into, are you the person that just squirrels your way to a seat and has a seat and plays on your computer until the meeting starts? Or are you the person that comes in with good posture, looks around the room, puts your stuff on the table, and then does a circle around the room, having conversations? That will change how people perceive you. In every single conference you're in, meeting you're in at work, every room you're going to a Starbucks this week. When you enter that door, how do your nonverbals? Increase the distance from your ear to your shoulder, right? Increase that as competence. I would look at every door differently. That would be my number one advice. Enter those rooms differently.
Well, I love that, and I've got something to practice. So thank you so much.
I love it. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You bet. All right, everybody, it's Dr. Dustin York. Go follow him, go listen to him, and put some of these things to practice. Don't just listen and say, oh, that really sounds great, but actually do it, because we're all about learning here. We're all about helping you to level up. So go ahead and make sure you level up every single day. Thanks, everybody.